My garage was empty. Not messy, not rearranged, empty. For a second, I honestly thought I'd pulled into the wrong driveway. The workbench my father and I built when I was 23, gone. The red tool chest I'd spent years filling one paycheck at a time, gone. The old fishing rods my wife gave me on our 20th anniversary, gone. Even the little refrigerator where I kept bottled water during the summer had disappeared. I was still standing there with a bag of groceries in my hand when I heard footsteps behind me. "Oh, good, you're home." I turned around. My daughter-in-law was smiling. Not an awkward smile, not a nervous smile. The kind of smile people wear after they think they've finished a project. The baby needs this space. I looked back into the garage, then back at her. "What?" She walked past me and swept her arm across the empty room. "We finally got everything cleared out. It'll make the perfect nursery." She said it like she expected me to compliment her. I waited for her to laugh. She didn't. "We donated most of the old stuff," she added. Most. That word stayed with me, because none of it was old to me. My father taught me how to sharpen chisels at that workbench. My wife used to sit in a lawn chair every Saturday morning while I worked on little project, reading mystery novels and stealing my coffee when she thought I wasn't looking. 35 years of my life had been sitting in that garage. Now it fit inside one word: stuff. "Where is it?" I asked. "The donation center took what they wanted. The junk company hauled the rest away." My son walked in from the backyard just then. "Dad?" That was it. Just, "Dad." I looked at him. "You knew?" He nodded once. "We talked about it." "We?" "The baby's coming. We needed the room." I set the grocery bag on the floor. The milk rolled onto its side. Nobody picked it up. Instead, I asked, "Who signed for the hauling company?" My daughter-in-law raised her hand a little. "I did." "You don't own this house. It's basically our house." "No." She blinked. Then she smiled again. A smaller smile this time. "I thought you'd be happy to help your granddaughter." I looked her right in the eye. "Then find your own space for the baby." The smile disappeared. My son stepped forward. "Dad?" I raised one hand. No. Nobody spoke. I walked into the house. Halfway down the hallway, I stopped. Something felt different. At first, I couldn't figure out what it was. Then I realized the wall color had changed. Carol picked that cream paint herself. Now it was gray. I kept walking. The family picture over the console table was gone. In its place hung a mirror I'd never seen before. The living room had different curtains, different lamps, different throw pillows. None of it happened overnight. That's what bothered me. It happened slowly enough that I never noticed the house changing around me. I opened the hallway closet. Carol's winter coats were gone, not moved, gone. I stood there staring at the empty hangers. Then I remembered. About 2 months earlier, my daughter-in-law had said she would have wanted someone to use the space. At the time, I thought she was trying to help. Now I wondered where those coats had gone. That night I couldn't sleep. Around midnight I walked downstairs for a glass of water. The kitchen light was still on. I heard my name. I wasn't trying to listen. I just froze. My daughter-in-law was talking. "He doesn't even notice anymore." My son answered so quietly I almost missed it. "I still don't like lying to him." She sighed. "We're not lying." A pause. "We're helping him." Then came the sentence that changed everything. "If we wait another year," she lowered her voice, "the whole house will already feel like ours." I never walked into the kitchen. I turned around, went back upstairs, and for the first time since Carol died, I locked my bedroom door. I didn't sleep much after that. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept hearing the same sentence. The whole house will already feel like ours. Not his. Not the family's. Ours. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I walked through every room with a notepad, not because I planned to start a fight, because I wanted to see my own house the way a stranger would. The dining room table wasn't ours anymore. Carol had spent months refinishing that oak table after we found it at a flea market. Now it was in the basement. A sleek glass table sat in its place. Our old china cabinet was gone too. I found it later in the garage, wrapped in moving blankets, with a sticky note that read, "Sell nobody had asked me. Somebody had simply decided." I kept writing. Living room, master bathroom, guest room. 1 page turned into 3. 3 turned into 6. By lunchtime, I'd filled half the notebook. Not with accusations, with facts. What had changed? What had disappeared? What no longer belonged where it always had? When my son got home that evening, he found me sitting at the kitchen table. "What's that?" "My memory." He frowned. "My notebook." I smiled. I figured if I'm forgetting so much, I should probably start writing things down. He looked uncomfortable. only for a second. Then he nodded. That's actually a good idea. That was the first time I realized something. He believed the story they'd been telling everyone. Maybe not all of it, but enough of it. He wasn't acting like a man trying to steal his father's house. He was acting like a man who'd convinced himself he was helping. That almost made it worse. The following afternoon, my phone rang. It was my younger sister. She lived in Colorado. We usually talked about baseball, grandchildren, and whose joints hurt more. Instead, she asked, "How are you feeling?" "I'm fine." "Good." A pause. I was worried. About what? Another pause. I probably shouldn't say. I leaned back in my chair. "You probably should." She sighed. "Your son said you've been having trouble remembering things." There it was again. Not dementia, not Alzheimer's, nothing dramatic, just enough. "He told me you've gotten confused a few times." I looked at the family calendar hanging beside the refrigerator, every doctor's appointment, every birthday, every bill due, all written in my handwriting. I haven't missed a single appointment in 3 years. I know that now. How many people has he told? She didn't answer right away. Probably everyone. After we hung up, I didn't call my son. I called my brother instead. Same story. Then an old family friend. Same story, Dia. Then my cousin in Ohio. Same story. Every conversation sounded like it had come from the same script. Dad gets overwhelmed. Dad doesn't like dealing with paperwork. Dad wants us making more decisions. None of those sentences was a lie by itself. Together, they painted a picture that wasn't true. That evening, I drove to the local hardware store. Not because I needed anything, because I'd been shopping there for almost 30 years. The cashier knew me by name. As I was leaving, one of the employees stopped me. "Hey!" I turned around. "Weren't you the guy with that big red toolbox?" "I was," he smiled. "I almost bought it at the Habitat Restore yesterday." My stomach tightened. "What?" "It sold before I got there." He shrugged. "Whoever donated it must have been cleaning out an estate." "An estate." I thanked him and walked to my truck. I sat behind the wheel for almost 10 minutes without starting the engine. Not because of the toolbox, because of that one word, estate. Somewhere, someone had described my belongings as if I were already gone. When I got home, a white pickup truck was parked in the driveway. 2 contractors were measuring my front porch. I walked over. "Can I help you?" One of them smiled. "We're here to quote the front addition." "The what?" He pointed toward the house. "Your daughter said she wants to extend the entryway before winter." "My daughter?" He checked his paperwork. "Sorry. Daughter-in-law." I nodded. "And who told you she could authorize work on this house?" He looked genuinely confused. "She said she was handling everything now." Handling everything. I thanked him for his time. Before he left, I asked one question. "Did she happen to say why I wasn't involved?" He looked embarrassed. "I probably shouldn't repeat it. I'd appreciate it if you did." He shifted his weight. "She said you were slowing down." He drove away a minute later. I stayed in the driveway long after he was gone. Not because I was angry, because something finally clicked. This had never been about making room for a baby. The garage was only the first thing they took. The real plan was to slowly convince everyone, including me, that I didn't belong at the center of my own life anymore. I went inside, opened the fireproof box in my bedroom closet, took out the deed. Then I reached underneath it and pulled out another envelope, one I'd almost forgotten existed. Carol had written my name across the front in blue ink, and underneath it, 3 words. "If anything changes." I hadn't seen that envelope in years. Not because I'd forgotten it, because Carol had made me promise something. "Don't open this unless you feel like the house doesn't feel like home anymore." At the time, I laughed. I told her she worried too much. She smiled and said, "Humor me." That was 5 months before she died. I sat on the edge of the bed with the envelope in my hands for a long time. Then I opened it. Inside wasn't some dramatic confession. It was one handwritten letter. Just 1 page. The first line made me put it back down. "If you're reading this, somebody is probably making decisions they shouldn't be making." Carol knew me too well. He knew I'd avoid arguments later. She knew I'd keep giving people the benefit of the doubt. She knew I'd confuse patience with peace. The rest of the letter wasn't about the house. It was about me. She reminded me that being kind didn't mean disappearing, that letting our children become adults didn't mean giving up the life we'd built. Near the bottom, she had underlined one sentence. "Never make permanent decisions because someone makes you feel temporary." I folded the letter carefully and slid it back into the envelope. I still have it. I probably always will. The next morning, I finally called my attorney. Not because I wanted to sue anyone, because I wanted to know exactly where I stood. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he asked one question. Who pays the property taxes? I do. The insurance? I do. The utilities? I do. He made one note. Good. I laughed. That doesn't sound like good news. It is. He closed the file. Because the facts don't care what story people have been telling. Then he asked if I had any photographs of the garage before it was emptied. Luckily I did. Pictures of my neighbor's restored Mustang. The car didn't matter. The background did. Every cabinet, every toolbox, every shelf, every box with Carol's handwriting. I emailed them while we were still on the phone. About an hour later he called back. I spoke with the hauling company. Already? They're cooperating. What did they say? He was quiet for a moment. They've sent me the authorization form. And? It wasn't signed by you. I figured. No. His voice changed. I don't think you understand. He emailed me the document. I opened it. There, in black ink, under the line marked homeowner notes, were the words that made my hands stop moving. Owner is elderly. Family handles decisions. I read it again. Then a third time. Nobody had declared me incompetent. Nobody had gone to court. Nobody had forged my signature sen. Instead, they had been creating a version of me that was easier to replace. One conversation at a time. One contractor at a time. One relative at a time. That afternoon I drove over to Frank's house next door. Frank had been my neighbor for 28 years. He saw my kids grow up. He carried furniture into this house when Carol and I first moved in. If anyone had noticed something, it would be Frank. He listened quietly while I explained what had happened. When I finished, he disappeared into his den. A minute later, he came back holding a small flash drive. I was wondering if you'd ever ask. I looked at him. Ask what? My security cameras catch part of your driveway. He handed me the drive. I saved something from the day they emptied the garage. When I got home, I plugged it into my computer. The timestamp matched the morning I'd been at the grocery store. I watched the hauling crew loading my tool cabinets. Then I saw the supervisor stop. He pointed toward the workbench. He looked unsure. My daughter-in-law walked over. I couldn't hear every word, but I heard enough. She laughed and said, "It's fine." Then she pointed toward the house. My father-in-law doesn't really keep track of things anymore. The supervisor shrugged. The workbench went onto the truck. I replayed that clip 3 times. Not because I needed proof, because I needed to hear it with my own ears. She hadn't made a mistake. She'd made a decision. And decisions have consequences. The next morning, my attorney watched the footage without saying a word. When it ended, he leaned back in his chair. Then he opened a new folder. Not the evidence folder, a different one. I looked at the tab. It had one word typed across it: eviction. He closed it before I could say anything. I've been practicing law for 34 years, he said. I've learned something. What? People who think they're taking a house? He tapped the folder once. Usually don't realize they're packing their own boxes. He was right. They still thought they were winning. They had no idea. The story was about to change.